So, dear students, let's start our class. As where we have concluded yesterday. So today, what we'll be discussing, we'll be discussing the geometrical representation of a complex number, and relevant to that is called eigenplane, and how we represent a complex number, and then we will discuss the relevant topics. Think about a real number. You know when you take a real number, and you can always represent that real number in a straight line, correct or not? Suppose you take a number 5. That 5 you can represent in a number line. Now, what is the difference between real number and complex number? Apart from the differences what we have discussed last time, is that you really cannot compare two complex numbers. Means whether one complex number is greater than the other complex number or not. Whereas you can always compare two real numbers. If I have two real numbers, that one is x, sorry, let me write in this way, different color. Suppose I have a real number x, and I have another real number y, then I can establish a relationship whether x is greater than y or less than y or equal to y. Okay, but in case of complex number, suppose if we have a complex number a1 plus ib1, we really cannot say whether it is greater than a2 plus ib2 or not, or we cannot say whether it is less than or not. Equality we can judge. You know why, dear students? Because if we remember, yesterday we talked about that a1 plus ib1, or in general a plus ib, what it represents. It represents that a complex number, but where the plus is not actually the summation here, right? If you notice, that plus is not the summation. It is not adding a1 and ib1. It is not adding. It is a representation that it has a real part and it has an imaginary part. For example, in case of a1 plus ib1, a1 is a real part and b1 is the imaginary part. Now, let me give you in context to coordinate geometry. If I give you 2 points, can you really compare whether the one point is greater than the other or not? Think about in a coordinate system, I have given you 2 points. Okay, one point is here, another point is here. It is of meaningless to discuss whether this point P1 is greater than P2 or not. It is of meaningless. Similarly, for complex numbers, it is of no meaning to compare two complex number whether one is greater than the other or not. Now, so what we understood is that so far is that we can represent a complex number just like a in a coordinate system. Okay, so the notation x plus iy, when you write that z is equal to x plus iy, what we say is called the algebraic form of representation of a complex number. Any complex number which is in the form of zx plus iy can also be represented by a point on the coordinate plane, also is known as a complex plane, also known as a eigenplane, by the ordered pair x comma y. That means what? Eigenplane or the complex plane is nothing but a Cartesian plane. Dear students, you are already aware of Cartesian coordinate system. So what is Cartesian plane? Let us discuss about this in context with a complex number. For example, if you look into it is a plane something like this. Let me bring the system here first. So you will get something like this. If you recall, this is a Cartesian coordinate system, correct or not? But in context to our discussion, dear students, what we say is that if you see that point P is actually x comma y, this is represented by this complex number x plus iy. Okay, now what is that axis OX? That axis OX is called the real axis. That is known as the real axis. Okay. Similarly, in the same manner, the axis OY is called the imaginary axis. This is imaginary axis. Okay, and this plane, XY plane, is called the Argand plane or complex plane. And in that plane, we are plotting that point P x comma y is called the image of the complex number z. So what we can say? We can say this point P is nothing but the image. So I can write is that point P point P is the image of z is equal to x plus iy. That means in the algebraic form, whatever you see z equal to x plus iy, its point form is p x comma y in the Argand plane. Now there is a meaning of behind it. As I started discussing that you really cannot say between two complex number whether one complex number is greater than the other or not, because that comparison is meaningless, and that is completely context sensitive to compare whether one point is greater than the other point or not. Okay, now what we are going to discuss on in context to this, how to represent a point P. Now tell me, there are two ways we can represent a point P. Okay, one coordinate system we are aware of is that Cartesian coordinate system. That is, what we we all are aware of it. And another coordinate system, which we'll be discussing in details when we'll discuss coordinate system, but I just want to touch base, that is called the polar coordinate system. What is the, if I give you a little background behind it, what is how we can represent a point in the plane in a two dimension? To represent a point in two dimension, what we need, dear students, we need two reference frames. Why? Suppose let us consider the point, the plane is the point plane in the whiteboard, what you are seeing. Now I am telling you, dear students, I have a point P here. Then how I can say where the point P? So we can say that we have a point P which is with coordinate alpha comma beta. Alpha comma beta I'm coming. So if I say the point P, then how to say this point P? Now I can tell, that point P is at a distance beta from a straight line parallel to, it is a kind of a horizontal line. Now that information is not sufficient. You know why? Because from this straight line, if I define that straight line as, OX, okay. Now in that straight line, there are many points which are at a distance of beta units from the OX. So suppose there is a point P here, Q here, point R here, means any point on this straight line is of the same distance of beta units from that OX, correct or not? So we really cannot represent that point P uniquely with that only one information, that point P is at a distance beta units from the, x-axis. So that is not sufficient, correct or not? Then what we need to say? We need to say one more information. And that information, if I say, no, at the same time, it is at a distance alpha units from the y-axis. Means another line which is perpendicular to the OX, which we define as yx. So if we say this distance is alpha, correct, no, dear students? And this distance is beta, then it is uniquely represented. So what will be the coordinate? Its coordinate will be alpha comma beta. That is the way we know about the coordinate system, no? Now this point, if I mark in a different color, this point, those they are in the same distance from the x-axis of beta units, but they are different distances from the y-axis, right? It is not alpha. So to represent a point P, alpha comma beta, we need what, we need two reference frames. And that is what we are aware of since the last couple of years we are studying this. That is called the Cartesian coordinate system. Now, what is our purpose? Our purpose is to represent a point, uniquely. Can you do it in some different way? Let us try. We can do it in a different way. And that form we are going to learn now, and it has a lot of significance in the complex number discussion as well. So we have the same point P, you know what? We have the same point P, but here we are telling what we are telling that there is a fixed point. There is a fixed point O. How far it is from that fixed point? We are telling that point P as a distance of R from that fixed point O. That point P is at a distance of R from the fixed point O. Now we can have many such points which is at a distance R units from the fixed point O. That point O is fixed, that cannot change. So what? We can draw a circle, no, dear students, if you remember. If we draw a circle, though it looks like a circle, but assume this is a circle. Now every point on this is at a distance of R units from the point O, no? So that means this point is also represented by at a distance R, at a distance R. This point is also at a distance R. This point is also at a distance R. So then how to represent uniquely? To represent uniquely, we are introducing another straight line. So one point is there, another straight line we are introducing, and that straight line is this thing. Okay. Now we are telling that point P is represented by how far it is from the point O, fixed point O, and how much angle it actually made with this fixed straight line. Suppose this is theta in an anti-clockwise direction. That is considered as a positive direction of the measuring the angle. And dear students, when we say this thing, then all these points, maybe their R is same, but their theta is different. Here the angle is different, correct or not? It is a different point. Here the angle is different. That is a different point, correct? So this kind of representation is known as a polar representation. It is called a polar coordinate system. Polar coordinate system. And what it is aware of, we are aware of the previous one. It is known as the Cartesian coordinate system. Correct or not? So this is Cartesian coordinate system, polar coordinate system, and we can find a relationship between them also. How to find a relationship between them, dear students, is that if we can make this point O and this point O, together coincide, then that OX will also coincide with this line. Correct or not? Absolutely clear, dear students. Then what will happen is that, the moment we do this thing, then what we are going to get is that, we can find a relationship between that alpha, beta, and R theta. How? So this same point, if we make in a coordinate axis, so this becomes, y-axis, no? And this becomes x-axis. So the same point, just a minute. Sometime in digital board I cannot draw a vertical line properly. Okay, now the same point is having coordinate alpha comma beta, in which the angle, suppose this point we can say is as L. That angle LOP is actually theta. Then just by applying the simple trigonometric concepts, what we can say is equal to alpha is equal to alpha and r, there is a relationship. Alpha equal to r cos theta, correct or not? Alpha equal to r cos theta and beta equal to r sin theta. So dear students, what I did, actually I made a very basic and initial discussion about the Cartesian and polar coordinate system. We will discuss all these things in details later, but let's now come back to our Argand plane. So we now clearly understood why it is important to represent a complex number which is there in the algebraic form. As you see, z equal to x plus iy, it is an algebraic form, and that algebraic form is actually represented by a point p x comma y. Now what happened is that how to represent this thing in the Argand plane. So there are 2 points r and theta, as you see, dear students. Okay. Now this angle what you see here, anti-clockwise angle, is always measured at the positive angle. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to make some conclusion. The first thing is that all purely real numbers lie on the real axis, that is on the OX axis. I hope all of you agree to me, because all purely real number will have their imaginary coordinate as 0. Correct or not? I'm talking about any points on this line. All are purely real number, as it is a real number, real number line. Okay, right? And all purely imaginary numbers lie on the imaginary axis, that is on the y-axis. Correct or not? In this axis, all the imaginary numbers are actually plotted. So the complex number 0, which is represented as 0 plus 0i, is lie at the origin, that is here. And the modulus of the complex number, we will find now there are 2 terms I am going to introduce. One is called the modulus and one is called the amplitude. Okay. Now before I proceed, so what I would like to mention these fundamental points is that just what I just discussed, I'm going to place it here. Just have a quick look into it. And I hope all of you are agree to me. Now, modulus of a complex number, you see, these are all the points we have discussed. But the last point, what you see, dear students, the modulus of a complex number is the distance between the point Pxy and the origin in the Argand plane. Now, what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss in details about 2 attributes of a complex number. One is called the modulus and second one is called the argument or amplitude. Because these 2 attributes represents a complex number uniquely, and we are going to discuss these 2 points very, very clearly. So first what we are going to discuss is that the modulus of a complex number. So let us consider a complex number z is equal to a plus ib. Okay. So then what you can imagine that you have an Argand plane and it is as if there is a point is called, what happened? There is a point a comma b in the Argand plane. That's what you can think of. Correct, not dear students? What happened? Just a minute, please. I hope you are not able to view anything, no, dear students. Can someone please confirm?
So I can see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This is little strange thing happening. Let me do it here. Anyway, it came here. Let's continue discussion from here. What is the modulus of a complex number? Let z is equal to a plus ib be a complex number. The moment it comes to your mind, then you can just resemble with that, with the Argand plane, you can think of, yeah, I have a real axis along the OX. You can think in this way, na? You have a real axis, which is the, OX, x-axis actually in our Cartesian coordinate system, and you have an imaginary axis which is OY, represented by OY, okay, and perpendicular to the line OX, so OY. And let's assume for the sake of simplicity that both A and B are positive, so we can place it here. That means what? You can place it here also in the negative direction as well, but we are not considering that for the sake of our discussion and simplicity. Then the modulus of the complex number z is denoted by mod z. Any terminologies, dear students, there is a denotion, that is how you can represent, and what it is means what is the definition, how it is defined. So denotion and definition. So denotion is mod z, and definition is that mod z equal to square root of a square plus b square. Or elaborately, I can say mod z equal to square root of the real part of that complex number square plus the imaginary part of that complex number squares. Now, that is the algebraic way of looking into the thing. Now, the moment we want to see from a geometrical point of view, what is that? If you just recall our distance between 2 points, then what is that? OP is the distance, now, dear students. Square root of a minus 0 whole square plus b minus 0 whole square. Why 0 come? Because the coordinate of the origin is 0, 0, distance between 2 points. So that is what is called the modulus. Now, as we just learned that, with the same modulus, that means with this mod z, we can have many complex numbers, which is lying on a circle of radius mod z, and we have drawn the circle keeping the origin as the center. That means what? We can construct a circle, and any point on this circle, dear students, is actually having a modulus of mod z. But all these points, this point, this point, this point, this point, all these points represent a complex number. And all these points has a modulus, and all these complex number has a modulus of mod z. Then question is that how we can represent it uniquely. To represent it uniquely, we discussed little bit, is that let us find how much angle it is making with the positive direction of the x-axis, that is the real axis. That means how we can find this angle. So this angle, we actually give a new terminology that is called the amplitude, dear students. So then what we are going to learn? We are going to learn is that the argument or amplitude of a complex number. Okay. Argument and amplitude is what? Argument and amplitude. Now, if we define, dear students, you'll find something like this. The argument or amplitude of a complex number is, let me reduce this a little bit. Let me put it here. Yeah. The argument or amplitude of a complex number is denoted by arg z or amp z. As you know, that these are the denotion. And how we defined? We defined as tan inverse of b by a. Okay, what is that? That means if this angle is theta, we can say that tan theta is equal to b by a. Okay, and tan inverse of something is nothing but an angle. And dear students, if you recall yesterday, I said that you can look into the video lectures of that inverse trigonometric functions. Just let me take a quick survey. Did you all of you get a chance to look into the inverse trigonometric functions lecture?
So I saw 3 of them.
One is sufficient because you need to have the very basic idea. Okay, great. Because that then you will understand what is the inverse trigonometric function. Okay, so now the point is that the tan inverse of b by a, but there is a small catch here. Okay, amplitude or argument is not always exactly equal to tan inverse of b by a. Rather, it depends on that complex number which is represented by a point in which quadrant. As you know, dear students, we always we know that entire coordinate system we can break into 4 quadrants. This is first quadrant, this is second quadrant, this is third quadrant, and this is fourth quadrant. When the complex number is in the uh, you know the first quadrant, okay, then tan inverse of b by a is the amplitude or argument, but not always. When the complex number is in the second you know quadrant, it is different. Third quadrant, it is different. Fourth quadrant, it is different. From my experience, I have seen it is not very clearly explained that how to find the argument when the complex number is in different quadrant. And I am going to give you a very clear definition, and you will find there is no mistake henceforth. Okay, but before going to tell this thing, so if we assume that theta is equal to tan inverse of b by a, dear students, if we assume that theta is equal to tan inverse of b by a, then what we can say we know? We can say that theta is in between minus pi to pi. We can, if it is, that if theta is equal to tan inverse of b by a such that theta is in between minus pi to pi, excluding minus pi and including pi, then theta is known as the principal argument. Why principal argument picture topic is coming into the discussion? Because for the same complex number, you can have many arguments, okay, with a difference of 2 pi. You get this angle theta, na? Again, you can get this angle if you add 2 pi with it, correct or not? Again, you get 2 pi with it. So there are many arguments possible, for a complex number. But we will consider this is the principal argument if the theta is in between minus pi to pi. This is all. Now what I am going to tell you, dear students, is that there is a very common question generally asked is that find the principal argument of a complex number. Finding the principal argument of a complex number is very easy when the complex number is in the first quadrant in the Argand plane. This is Argand plane, correct, dear students? This is what is called the Argand plane. Argand plane or complex plane, the way you want to, say. Just a minute. Let me write properly. This is known as the Argand plane or complex plane. Now, what we are discussing is that if the complex number is in the first quadrant, that means when the complex number both has the real part and imaginary part are positive real number. That means a plus ib. When both a and b are positive real numbers, then it is very easy. It is what, as you see, tan inverse of b by a, what the fundamental definition I have given, that argument of z or amplitude of z is equal to tan inverse of b by a. But as I just said few minutes back, that from my experience I have seen there is not a very clear definition for each of these cases. Then how to find it out? If we represent a complex number z in the form of a plus ib, so and it is in the complex number is in the first quadrant, what will be? Let me use a different color to write this one. If the complex number is in the first quadrant, dear students, so its argument will be tan inverse of b by a. its argument will be, so let me write down very clearly. So argument of z will be tan inverse of b by a, because both b and a are positive. Now let's come to the second quadrant. And dear student, in the second quadrant, what happened? In the second quadrant, we know that a is negative but b is positive. Correct, no? So in this case, what will happen? Argument of z. Let me write properly. So in case of second quadrant, argument of z should be, pi minus tan inverse of b by mod a. Let me do one thing. Dear students, let me write very clearly, because this is a very important part of information. So in the second quadrant, let me write slowly. Argument of z is equal to pi minus tan inverse of b is positive but a is negative. That's why mod a. So if you look into the first quadrant, in first quadrant, how theta is varying? Theta is in between 0 to pi by 2. 0 less than theta less than pi by 2. Correct, no, dear students? In the second quadrant, what we see, dear students? Theta is in between pi by 2 to pi. So that means pi by 2 less than theta less than pi. Correct or not? Now in the third quadrant means what? When we see that it is, minus pi by 2 less than theta less than minus pi by 2, what we can find? Argument of z. Here argument of z in the third quadrant, dear students. Now first you need to find, in the third quadrant, both a and b are negative. Correct or not? So then what we'll do? Here we will write minus pi plus tan inverse of mod of b by mod of a. Okay. And in the fourth quadrant, so in third quadrant, what we get? Minus pi less than theta less than minus pi by 2. Okay. Why? Because we are finding the principal argument. In principal argument, as we just discussed, that theta has to be in between minus pi to pi, excluding minus pi but including pi. Now in the fourth quadrant, dear students, what it will be? In fourth quadrant, we know that a is positive but b is negative. So in case the fourth quadrant, the argument will be what? That minus of tan inverse of mod of b by a. If you remember this thing, dear students, you will never find to any complexity to find the argument of a complex number. I have seen a lot of books has been explained this simple thing in a very, very, complex manner. But this is the most easiest and most simplest way to find the argument of a complex number. Now I wrote into the quadrant. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to write all these things in a point form. So what is that? Following is the procedure to determine the principal argument of a complex number. Principal argument means what? I repeat, dear students, it is from minus pi to pi, where excluding minus pi and including pi. So if we represent a complex number, by, z is equal to a plus ib. If we represent a complex number as z is equal to a plus ib in the Argand plane, and then if we find that AB in different quadrants, then we are going to find the argument something like this. Very important. This table is very important. Okay. You will realize more if you have gone through the how to find the argument in different material or different book or different video lecture. Then you'll find that things are actually not very clearly explained. I hope so. Maybe some videos are there, it is very clearly explained based on my whatever I have noticed. So what I'm saying that if we represent the complex number, let me repeat, dear students, this is a very important piece of information. If we represent the complex number z is equal to a plus ib in the Argand plane, and if AB is in the first quadrant, then the argument of Z is equal to tan inverse of B by A, because both A and B are positive. So AB is in the first quadrant. The way to find is that argument of Z is equal to tan inverse of B by A. Let me use a different color. If AB is in the second quadrant, then the argument will be pi minus tan inverse of B by mod A, because in the second quadrant A is negative but B is positive. As A is negative, we took mod A. That means, simple terms, we are just considering the positive part of both B and A. If AB is in the third quadrant, dear students, if it is in the third quadrant, then how we are going to find the argument? Argument here is that minus pi plus tan inverse of mod B by mod A. Okay? Here both A and B are negative. And as both A and B are negative, what we are going to find? We are going to find mod B and mod A. And finally, if AB is in the fourth quadrant, then how we are going to find the argument? The argument is equal to minus of tan inverse of mod B by A, because here in the fourth quadrant B is negative, so we are taking the positive value of it, that is mod B by A. So these are the simple cases to find the argument and amplitude. What we say, argument or amplitude, both are synonym. The first case we already discussed. Second case is this one. You remember the color combination, dear students, so that you will not forget. And the fourth one is this. So this is the way we are going to find the argument or amplitude of a complex number. You will never get any mistake. Okay. Otherwise, whenever there are questions related to find the amplitude or argument of a complex number, depending, it creates a lot of confusion. Especially whenever the question is also a very important point, dear students. Whenever a question is that find the amplitude or argument of a complex number, it means that you are supposed to find the principal argument of a complex number. Now, the next point, what I'm going to discuss is that we can next point, what I'm going to discuss is called the conjugate of a complex number. Okay. So conjugate of a complex number, if we see the conjugate of a complex number is something like this. Let Z is equal to A plus IB be a complex number. Then the conjugate of the complex number Z is denoted by Z bar, and it is defined as Z is Z bar equal to A minus IB. If you recall, dear students, yesterday we discussed about the conjugate of a complex number.
Yes.
Right? We made a touch base of the conjugate of a complex number. Okay. Now, here we define formally, and with this denotion, how we define. Now, the next point what we are going to discuss, dear students, is called the multiplicative inverse of a complex number. How to find the what is multiplicative inverse? That we should know. The multiplicative inverse of a complex number is denoted by as you see that Z inverse, that is Z to the power minus 1 kind of a notation, is that let Z is equal to A plus IB be a complex number, then the multiplicative inverse of the complex number Z is denoted by Z inverse and is defined by Z inverse is equal to 1 by Z. Okay, and 1 by Z, and that means it is equal to 1 by A plus IB. And dear students, if you recall that if we need to find that a plus ib, 1 by a plus ib, how we can find it out? It is quite simple. You know, we discussed yesterday that we can make a, we can multiply both numerator and denominator with the conjugate of this complex number a plus ib, which is a minus ib. So what we are going to do, it is quite simple. I'm just going to place it in front of you, dear students, and I hope you'll able to understand by your own. If any doubt, please do let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yes.
hope all of you got a very clear idea.
Yes.
Correct or not? Hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Now, what we are going to discuss is that we are going to discuss about the some important result on from some important results on modulus and conjugate of complex numbers, and these results are important, and will be if you need to remember this one, and it will be very helpful as well. Okay. So I'm just going to show this thing. After that, we'll solve couple of problems mainly related to the the finding the modulus and argument of a complex number. So here are the points I would like to mention first before we start solving problems. The first one, dear students, is that mod z equal to 0. Mod z equal to 0 is implying and implied by. That's why you will find, uh, what happened today. I'm facing little problem to bring that, the notes here. I do not know what is happening. Okay. So let me write it down then. Okay. So it is better to write it down. The first one is that some important results of modulus and conjugate of complex number. If z1 and z2 be, let me try for one more time, because I wanted to save time by copy paste this thing, because otherwise I need to write it down. Yes, it came. So for any two complex numbers z1 and z2, the following results are going to be true. The first few results I am showing you, dear students, first. So mod of z equal to 0 implies or implied by that either, so implying or implied by z equal to 0, that means the real part of z equal to 0 and imaginary part of z equal to 0. So mod of z 0 implying that the complex number is a 0, that means its real part and imaginary part both are 0. Mod of z is equal to mod of z bar, means its conjugate, and that is equal to mod of minus z. Real part of z is always in between that minus of mod z and mod z. Same thing is for the imaginary part. Z into z bar, that means the product of the multiplication of the complex number and its conjugate is always gives the modulus of the complex number whole square. Mod of z1 into z2 is equal to mod z1 into mod z2. And mod z1 by z2 is equal to mod z1 by mod z2, subject to the condition that mod z2 is not equal to 0. Then, dear students, the next set of properties, what I'm going to show you is here. So next set of properties, dear students, as you see here, is that mod of z1 plus z2 square is equal to mod z1 square plus mod z2 square plus 2 real part of z1 into z2 bar. That is a conjugate. Similarly, for mod of z1 minus z2 square is equal to mod z1 square plus mod z2 square minus 2r into 2 real part of z1 into z2 bar. Now, if we club together, then we get this thing. What? That mod of z1 plus z2 square plus mod of z1 minus z2 square is equal to 2 into mod of z1 square plus mod of z2 square. Correct, dear students? And the next one is that mod of a z1 minus b z2 square plus mod of b z1 plus a z2 square is equal to a square plus b square into z1 square plus mod of z1 square plus mod of z2 square for any two real numbers a and b. You can all do this thing by your own, dear students, okay, because you know the fundamental definition. Now, mod of z1 plus z2 is always less than equal to mod z1 plus mod z2. And mod of z1 minus z2 always greater than equal to mod z1 minus mod z2. And you know, conjugate of a conjugate is actually gives back to the same complex number. If a plus a minus ib is the conjugate of a plus ib, then what is conjugate of a minus ib? It is a minus or minus ib, right? That is a plus ib, which gives back to the complex number what I defined in the last point, dear students. Okay. Now the last few points, okay, here it is. And as you see, dear students, I'm just going to put it here. Yeah. Let me keep it here actually. Let me see whether it comes or not. Today it is creating problem. See, today only it is creating problem with this digital board. It will come now. So z1 plus z bar is equal to 2 real part of z. That is quite obvious because imaginary part got cancelled. And z minus z bar is equal to 2i into imaginary part of z because their real part get cancelled. The z into z bar, the multiplication of a complex number with its conjugate, is nothing but the real part square plus imaginary part square. z1 plus z2 bar, that is the conjugate of z1 plus z2, is nothing but z1 bar plus z2 bar, and same thing holds for the minus, that is z1 minus z2 bar is equal to z1 bar minus z2 bar. z1 into z2 bar is equal to z1 bar into z2 bar, and z1 by z2 bar is equal to z1 bar by z2 bar, subject to the condition that z2 is not equal to 0. Now, dear students, all these properties, as I said, are important because you need to apply this, when times arises while solving the, numerical questions from complex numbers. So you should remember this thing. So now, what I would like to do, I would like to, solve, one or two problems related to amplitude and argument. Okay. So that will, make our idea clear. So just give me a couple of minutes so that I can find, couple of questions related to solve the amplitude and argument. Okay. So we are going to find the modulus and argument of this complex number. So first, what you need to do, first you let me know, dear students, to find the modulus and argument of these two complex number, what you need to do first? Can someone please answer what you need to do first?
Multiply the
I'm sorry.
multiply the numerator and denominator by 1 minus
Correct. Exactly. Good. In fact, means what I wanted to say is that we need to express this in the form of a plus ib.
yeah.
Correct or not? That is what we are going to achieve. So now let's look into this problem. So then what we are going to do, suppose let's assume z is equal to 1 plus I divided by 1 minus I. Then what you'll do, let me do it actually, then you'll understand that how simply, how easily you can do it. Not this part. This part though I know you will able to do it, and you have done couple of DPPs. 1 plus I, 1 DPP you have done yesterday, no? So 1 minus I into 1 plus I. So this implies what? This implies z is equal to 1 plus I whole square divided by 1 minus I square. Correct or not? That implies my handwriting is not good today because the digital board is not. So 1 plus I whole square is what? 1 plus I square plus 2I divided by 1 minus I square means what? 1 minus of minus 1. Correct or not? Clear or not clear? So from here what we are going to get, dear students? Z is equal to 1 minus 1 plus 2I divided by 2. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So that implies Z is equal to I. Means more specifically we can say Z is equal to 0 plus 1 into I. Now what is the coordinate here? 0, 1. 0, 1 is in which quadrant? 0. Huh?
First,
Yeah. So
y.
0, 1. Correct or not? So 0, 1, if you look into the, we can in the Argand diagram. So what we can say? We can say it is in the first quadrant. Or you can say in the second quadrant. It is in the territory. Correct or not? So if I draw, so never compromise with your learning. That is what I always say. if you consider this as the Argand diagram, this is origin, this is x dash, this is y dash. Then where is 0, 1? 0, 1 is somewhere here, no? Correct or not? So how come we can say this is a first quadrant only? It is in the first or second. But wherever it is, dear students, we will get the same argument. We just apply the concept we are going to learn. We have learned today. So what is the argument of Z? Argument of Z here is that, if we consider this is in the first quadrant, then what is that? Tan inverse of B by A. What is B? Tan inverse of B is what? 1. Sorry. 1 by 0? 1 by 0, correct or not? So what is that? Tan inverse of tan pi by 2? Tan 90 degrees undefined, na? And if you recall that this is equal to pi by 2. Correct, no? Now if we assume the same thing is in the second quadrant, what we are going to get? If you recall, what to find in the second quadrant? If we go back, if we find where it is, I did it in the previous page, no? Okay, in the second quadrant, how to find it out? Just a minute, let me increase the font. In the second quadrant, what it is? Pi minus tan inverse of B by mod A. This one, no? You'll get the same thing. So what we are going to get it here? Today digital board is actually little malfunctioning for me. Anyway, it is not giving us a big problem, but little problem. I need to correct it. So then what we are going to get is that it is pi minus tan inverse of 1 by mod 0, na? So that is equal to what? Pi minus tan inverse of undefined, that is tan pi by 2. So that is equal to pi minus pi by 2. That is equal to pi by 2. Clear or not, dear students?
Yes.
So this is what is called a very clear understanding about a topic. Absolute clear understanding, no compromisation that what's had told in which one I just go with these policies. If it's in the first quadrant, tan inverse of B by A. If it is in the second quadrant, pi minus tan inverse of B by mod A. If it is in the third quadrant, that is minus pi plus tan inverse of mod B by mod A. If it is in the fourth quadrant, that is minus of tan inverse of mod B by A. Done. We can apply the same thing. Let me use a different color so that you should not mix up with this one. You can also do along with me, dear students, for this one. So let's assume Z is equal to 1 plus 1, not 1 plus, 1 by 1 plus I. And you know what you need to do? We need to multiply both numerator and denominator by 1 minus I. So 1 plus I into 1 minus I. So this implies Z is equal to what? 1 minus I. In the denominator, what we are getting? It is 1 plus I into 1 minus I. So that is 1 square minus I square. That is equal to what? 1 minus I by, it is 2. 1 minus of minus 1. Correct or not? That implies Z is, sorry, let me write properly. That implies Z, that implies Z is equal to, what we get is that 1 minus I divided by 2. That implies Z is equal to 1 by 2 plus I into minus 1 by 2. Now let's look into in the Argand diagram the point 1 by 2 comma minus 1 by 2, where it resides.
Fourth quadrant.
Fantastic. Fourth quadrant. So appreciate. Good. In fourth quadrant, what do you know? Fourth quadrant, argument of Z, if you open your notebook, it is minus of tan inverse
Mod B by A.
mod B by A. So I'm just writing elaborately. Mod b, mod of minus half by half. In simple term, as I said, dear students, just want to find the positive values of positive part of a and z. So arguments of z is equal to, sorry, minus tan inverse of 1 by 2 by 1 by 2, that is 1. That implies the argument of z is equal to minus of tan inverse of 1. If you have looked into my video lectures, that is equal to tan
I by 4.
pi by 4. So from here, what we get is that argument of z is equal to minus pi by 4. So this table, what I mentioned, dear students, if you just remember, finding argument becomes so simple. It becomes absolutely simple. So, dear students, before I conclude the class, my humble suggestion is that please solve the second DPP. I do not want to give you much pressure. Do one by one DPP. It's not that everything you need to do. Do one DPP, second DPP. Okay. And if you have, first let's complete all the complex number, then we will go for the practice test of this thing. Okay. So my humble suggestion to all of you, dear students, so those who have not yet able to look into my video lectures on trigonometric equations and inverse trigonometric functions, please look into it. By the way, those who have looked into it, how you find those video lectures? It is clearly understandable?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
No doubt, right? A bit like that I am taking a live class, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Only point is that you may have a question there, which I'm not available at that time, but you can always raise it to me here in this class. No? In
Yes.
that way, dear students, what you do, what we can achieve is that we can reduce the time in the theoretical discussion. We can lever the properly, and we can solve some numerical problems more. That is the purpose.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. If you have any specific question, you can feel free to me. Tomorrow we'll have a class at 9 o'clock. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.